What's up, everybody? I'm Katie.
And I'm Morgan.
And this is For Your Misinformation. We are two Midwestern feminists here to break down the political news that you need to know without the misinformation that you don't.
Let us break down the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Hi, everybody. It's just me today because I'm recording this at like 2 in the morning and Morgan has a job. So I still think this one is a really important one. It is about the shitty coup that is really dangerous, even though it's not going to work this time. And I want to talk about like what that means for the next decade-ish. Basically being on the lookout for smarter fascists. But in like more optimistic news, if you're listening to this the day that it comes out, the Georgia runoff elections are in 15 days. I have a lot more political actions ready at the end to talk about, some stuff to send to your elected representatives. So stick around for that at the end. All right, so the shitty coup. Historically, democracy is real hard. And like in order for the people to rule and do a good job, they have to pay attention. And when you don't pay attention for a while, shitty narcissists like Donald Trump can use the authoritarian playbook, which is not creative. We've talked about it before. All it is just call the press the enemy of the people and blame outsiders, weaponize fear, talk about law and order a lot, exploit religion. So they do all that to get democratically elected, and then they tear down the institutions from the inside. And we kept that at bay with our ballots, which is really, really hard to do. We should be very proud of ourselves, but we didn't like, the fire is not out. I don't know if any of you were Girl Scouts, but you have to make sure your campfire is put all the way out. These fascists are not done. We are in stage 3 of the shitty coup. So yeah, when a party, I'll go through the stages, I promise. But when a party starts to lose power, and if that party doesn't really have any like strong democratic values to hold on to, they'll do anything to keep power. And we are watching the Republicans go through it right now. It's weird. It's so weird. I like didn't realize that history continues. Like I thought I learned about history in school. Now history's over. Not true. So let's not be the dum-dums that like our grandchildren look back and they're like, oh, wow, they really fell for that. This happens like at least once every 100 years or so. Like you'd think they'd start to learn. But anyway. Okay, so there are the phases of their shitty coup. Phase 1 was try to suppress the votes. Like Donald Trump talked a lot of shit about mail-in ballots. It ended up biting him in the ass, but he tried to rig the U.S. Postal Service. He talked about how elections are corrupt, which often causes people to not vote. Okay, so that failed. Joe Biden still won the popular vote by 7 million votes and won the Electoral College. So that didn't work. Then he tried to challenge it in the courts. That also failed. Is continuing to fail. I think they're up to 60 some lawsuits now that they've lost or the courts have refused to hear. So now we're in stage 3, which is violence. So white supremacists are now acting on behalf of Trump in the streets. 4 people got stabbed. I think it was in DC. And then there was also some violence. I mean, that's like, they're not doing anything to stop it. So like, I just don't know how long that's going to continue for. But that's what stage we're in right now. But it's the revival of the Confederacy, and that's how we should treat it. And that sounds a little bit dramatic, but like, let me explain what I mean, because it really is not. So in a representative democracy like ours, the people vote and then our votes are counted and then the winner becomes the president. So Biden won the popular vote and the electoral college, even though it's rigged and racist, because of all our calls and texts and postcards and donations, and yay. We should be very happy and proud of ourselves, but vigilant. Trump has alleged that there was widespread voter fraud. We know now, because every court case but one has been tossed out of courts. Some of them, a lot of them have been laughed out of courts because they're just theater. They exist only to create confusion and everything around whether there was voter fraud or not. So it's good that all of these lawsuits were tossed out immediately, because it was like, oh yeah, there's no merit here. I mean, there's still a hell of a lot of conspiracy theories who think that there was voter fraud. The fact that they didn't like allow those cases to stretch out, there was definitely like that lends less credence to it. Oh my God. And the other thing that is so annoying is that all of these lawsuits, which there's like 60 something now, they're a waste of time. They're theater, and they're also being paid for with our taxpayer dollars. Again, these people fucking work for us. He's like a grifter through and through. He's wasting everybody's time and money. It's so stupid. Like, these lawsuits are as ridiculous. Like, you're not allowed to bring frivolous lawsuits before the court. So these lawyers, once they get there, the judges would be like, what are you doing here? And they can't allege fraud, because fraud is like dead people voting or whatever. It's not hearsay. It's not like, oh, I overheard. Like, there's no proof. There's just, it's as ridiculous as if like I walked into court and I was like, yeah, I was murdered yesterday. And the judge would just be like, excuse me? Be like, yeah, I was murdered yesterday. Like, figure it out. Deal with it. Like, that's how ridiculous some of these lawsuits are. It's like, it's like gaslighting. And then the judge might be like, okay, well, where's the evidence? I'd be like, well, it's in the mail. And then more than half the Republicans in the House were like, why won't anybody look into this woman's murder? And it's like, it's insane. I feel like we're in the upside down, or they're in the upside down. We're not in the same plane, not in the same reality. And then, even on top of that, if I then started a GoFundMe that was like, by the way, I'm going to need some money for the Bring Katie Back to Life fund. And like, they know better. Like, the Republicans in Congress know that there's no voter fraud. Like, they're not stupid enough. That's just too many court cases to be thrown out for there to be. Like, they know it. They just are afraid of losing Trump's racist base and being primaried by somebody more radical than them. It's sad. And if you don't have a backbone, I'm not sure what you're doing in Congress. Like, if you're going to be an elected official in a democracy, you should probably care about democracy, right? Like, otherwise, what are you doing? Why are you bothering? But, all right, ha ha ha, ridiculous. Makes me think of that Reno 911 episode when Terry was, I've been murdered. Okay, sorry. It has taken me this long to like formulate what I want to say about this, because it makes me so pissed. Because what they are trying to do is overturn the results of the election, which is the will of the people. And in other words, they're trying to install an unelected dictator. Like, that is not an exaggeration. That is what's happening here. That is fascism. We're not immune to it. Like, American exceptionalism is dangerous, because we are like just twiddling our thumbs like, we elected a black guy, we're fine from now on. It's like, oh, no. I guess that's not true at all. And I know that this coup isn't going to work, but just because this particular coup isn't going to work doesn't mean that it's not setting an incredibly dangerous precedent. Like, attempted murder is still murder. An attempted coup is still a crime. It's still bad. Like, all of the Republicans in the House that signed on to that amicus brief, like all of the Republican attorney generals, Ted Cruz, who said he would argue it in the Supreme Court, like any senator who has, any elected Republican who has been like silent on this or ambiguous about this, like, okay, sorry, I guess I don't want to get like into too much gray area. Every Republican in the House that signed on to that amicus brief, they're all traitors. Full stop. They are radicals. AOC is not a radical for thinking that everybody should have health care. These Republicans in the House who signed onto this amicus brief are trying to overturn the results of the election. And just because it's not going to work doesn't mean that they are not guilty of like a really, really horrible, awful crime. Because there's going to be smarter fascists in the future who are going to take advantage of it. Ugh, it's such bad news. So one of the things that I did this week, I swear I did some actual meaningful political action, but one of the things that I did that made me feel better is I printed out, and I got this idea from one of the Indivisible email chains that I'm on. There were 2 Illinois House reps who signed on to that amicus brief. Darren LaHood, who represents Peoria and like some of Bloomington, some of Normal, so it's like central Illinois, and then Mike Bost, who is, I think, down in like Carbondale, so way south, way south, southern Illinois. Like, you can drive like 7 hours south in Illinois and still be in Illinois. Did you know that? Some of our California listeners just got a geography lesson. Oh wait, your state's really big too. Damn. Guys, I think the only state nobody's ever listened from is Vermont. So if you have any friends in Vermont, hook me up because I'm trying to like fill in that little spot on my map. I printed out 2 coloring sheets. They're holiday themed. They have 2 Christmas ornaments on them, or holiday ornaments on them. And they say, here's a pair since you lost yours. And I'm sending these to Mike Bost and Darren LaHood because they don't have backbones. They won't stand up to Trump. It's sad and embarrassing. But I colored it in, and they're actually kind of pretty, and that was pretty cathartic. I used my colored pens. They're cute. But I'm also going to, I also wrote this letter that I'm going to include in both of them. And I tried to make it as simple as possible because I doubt that they actually read them. Like, there's no large, big structural change happening with this letter or this petty, like, haha, you don't have any balls joke. But, like, I hope somebody in that office reads this and it, like, clicks that what they're doing is super fucked up. So I just said, Congressman LaHood, couldn't help noticing that you willingly enlisted in an attempted coup. Honestly, I'm appalled, but not surprised. Democracy means the people elect their leaders, right? Well, Joe Biden won the popular vote and the Electoral College. Despite 50-plus lawsuits from Trump and his team, no evidence has been found of voter fraud, and in many cases, has even been left out of court. You must know this, and yet you'd rather support an attempt to overturn valid election results than stand up to Donald Trump. If you can't stand up against fascism, what is the point of being in an elected office in a democracy? Just because it isn't going to work doesn't mean it isn't setting an extremely dangerous precedent. It doesn't make you any less of a traitor. I hope you face serious consequences because you can't love America and hate democracy. Shame on you. Do better. So who knows if that will make a difference, but it felt cathartic, and I encourage everybody to look up which reps in their state just willingly decided to participate in the coup, and if you'd like, send them a letter. It can be as simple as It can be whatever you want. And I will send you the PDF of the here's a pair since you lost yours if you want. Let me know. So yeah, it's a violation of the Constitution. It's a violation of their oath of office. They should receive some kind of punishment or retribution or censure. I'm not really sure exactly, like, I didn't expect this to happen. I expected them, like, my bar for them was on the floor, and I did not expect them, like, I knew that they would passively go along with any kind of, like, attempted coup, but, like, they didn't have to sign on to this. Like, they just, like, willingly were like, yes, Donald, I'll do whatever you want. It's just, it's gross. It's embarrassing. They truly let anybody in Congress, mediocre white men, just do whatever they want. Anyway, at the end, I will give you a code to text to ResistBot so that you can contact your reps and, like, make sure that they do whatever they can to hold these people accountable. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I don't think they're going to get, like, kicked out of Congress, but I don't think people who supported the Confederacy should just be able to, like, sit alongside and make the rules for the future. Their ideas are bad. They had their chance. It sucks. So the way I've kind of been thinking about it is, like, there's two different boats going to two different islands, and they're very different islands. And the Party's boat is now very quickly headed toward Fascism Island. Like, it's very clear now that they don't hold the same democratic values that we do. And it's been kind of clear for a while to people who understand authoritarian regimes and, like, what the authoritarian, I didn't know what the authoritarian playbook was until kind of recently, but people who studied that, like, rising authoritarianism, like, saw this a mile away. So obviously we can't get on that boat. Hopefully nobody gets on that boat, but obviously some people are already on that boat. We're a two-party system. There's only one other boat. The other boat is the Democratic Party's boat, and it's really more of a barge. It's really, really big, and it's kind of slow, but it has room for everyone, except for fascists. And it's headed towards a more perfect union, and that more perfect union has climate action. And it might not do everything right, but, like, at least it acknowledges that systemic racism is real, that climate change is a crisis, that COVID is a crisis, and that we can listen to scientists and we could actually get out of this. It's in 311,000 American deaths by when I'm recording this. I think it's December 17th, maybe the 18th, not sure. 311,000 COVID deaths in the United States, and just because of incompetence, like, just because we put Jared Kushner in charge and they decided to do nothing. And also Congress has been doing nothing except for passing more radical judges. And there is no hope now for steering the Republicans' boat towards the more perfect Union Island, because they've shown their true colors and that all they care about is power and not actually democracy and democratic rule. And it's our job basically for the next, like, 10 or 20 years to watch out for smarter, better, more well-spoken fascists in the future, because there's obviously a lot of loopholes to exploit, and we got to be careful for that. All right, so I want to talk about actions, because for whatever reason, I was able to do a lot this week, and it was fun. So obviously, this one is petty, not changing the hearts and minds of anybody, probably. But I'm sending these letters to Congressman Bost and Congressman LaHood that just explains, in hopefully plain English, why they're an embarrassment to our country. Or at the very least, makes a staffer laugh because I sent them a picture of balls. It's just Christmas ornaments. They're not real balls. That would be horrible. All right. So if you feel like sending that to anybody who signed onto that amicus brief, but I just picked the people in my state. Also, since I'm a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, or DSA, I get their emails about trainings and stuff that they do. They have awesome ones all the time, but this one, I went to one that was with the DSA's Afro-Socialism group about racial and economic justice, and it was excellent. I really can't recommend enough joining the DSA. The Chicago DSA is really amazing in particular. Phone bank. I phone banked today so I made phone calls to Georgia today for Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff with the new Georgia Project Action Fund. So I'll put a link to that in the bio. It was great. They used an auto dialer. They did the training right during the session, and they have tons of slots between now and the election. So if you are itching to start phone banking now, go for it. It was good. I've kind of been slacking on my postcards. I need to start doing 10 or 15 a day between now and the 26th. So if you're doing the same ones that I am, the postcards to swing states, those need to be sent December 26th through 28th. Don't forget you need stamps. I ordered my stamps today. The other group, the other group that feels like a community to me is Indivisible. I really also recommend joining your local Indivisible group. So I went to our weekly postcard writing meeting of my local one on Monday nights. And then on Wednesday, I went to the Illinois statewide meeting, and they had a deep canvassing training, which is just learning how to talk to people, establish shared values, and really it's more like you're planting a seed. You're not really changing anybody's mind right on the spot, but you're planting a seed that hopefully they'll keep coming back to over and over. And it might eventually move them along the behavior change continuum. Sorry, I have the hiccups. Yeah, so that conversation may eventually move them along the behavior change continuum. Oh, and then earlier tonight, I went to another Indivisible meeting that was about how to write letters to the editor, which is probably, it's just oh yeah, that doesn't seem that hard. And also if Republicans are gonna destroy local newspapers and stuff, we should at least take advantage of the local newspapers that are left, because there's certainly, so yeah. So they have lots of really cool opportunities. So join your local Indivisible. There's also a January challenge with the Democratic National Training Committee. I will put a link to that in the bio also. But it is basically just a 30-day challenge. They send you an email every day, and it helps you decide if running for office is a good idea for you. I don't want to run for office. I'm a sensitive, fragile little flower, but all of us have to gently bully Morgan into running for office because she's an extrovert and she'd be excellent at it, obviously. So the 30-day challenge is to help you decide if you are a good candidate to run for office, if you're ready to run for office. So it says if you're a passionate Democrat who wants to make a difference but isn't sure how, that this would be a good challenge for you. It helps you better understand the realities of being a candidate and how to get started. And it says that at the end of the challenge, you'll have a roadmap that leads you to success on election day. So I think they just send you an email every day that has one simple task to prepare you to run for office, which ranges from helping you decide which office to run for, or building your first fundraising list. So I don't know. I want to know more about this stuff. So I signed up for that. Okay. And now it's time for the ResistBot petitions. So if you want to send an open letter to your congresspeople about the sedition of the 126 members of the House who signed that amicus brief. You can text sign PAJOCC to 50409, and that will send them a letter that says there are 126 members of the House that should not be seated due to their seditious behavior. Please call for Speaker Pelosi to not allow traitors who commit sedition to be seated in the U.S. House of Representatives. Simple. To the point. Easy. Get on it. Not that it's a good time. You can also call your representatives if you want to. I do that sometimes. So that is the letter about sedition, about the traitors in our midst. And then we got one more about stimulus relief. Maybe. Yes. All right, so I started this petition, and I was actually surprised by how many people have already signed it. I didn't think this would still be relevant by the time this episode came out, but it actually might be. So, you may have noticed there's been a pandemic going on. We haven't had survival checks for months and months and months. Nothing has passed Congress for months and months and months. That has anything to do with survival checks or enhanced unemployment assistance. So if you want to send this to your elected officials, and I highly, highly recommend this also, and this one is time sensitive. I would do this as soon as you hear this, but same thing, you're texting this to 50409, which is resist bot. You can text sign PSV JZQ to 50409. So you just text the words sign PSV JZQ to 50409, and that sends this to your elected officials, which says any COVID relief package must include survival checks and enhanced unemployment assistance. Millions of Americans have fallen into poverty during this pandemic, and these are the two most effective ways of putting money directly into people's pockets. Do not vote for anything less. Your constituents are hurting and need you to fight for us. So I thought negotiations for COVID relief stuff would be over by now, but it seems like it might actually go into next week. So it doesn't hurt to text them that. I'd say go for it. And also I just want to say, thank you to the Progressive Caucus and to Senator Sanders, who is holding the line on this. This wasn't even in anybody's nobody thought that this was going to happen, and then they put their foot down, and it seems like at least some relief is going to happen. It might be $600 instead of $1,200, and unemployment assistance might be $300 instead of $600, which they just passed a super expensive military funding bill, but whatever, priorities, right? So yeah, and just a reminder that every other Western democracy is providing direct cash assistance to their citizens monthly. So we can't get our shit together. Okay, let's do some self-care and kitten stuff and then be done and have a great week. Clark has been doing yoga and very kindly been inviting me to join him, and I have sometimes, and it's been really good. And by sometimes, I mean one time. Hopefully by the time you hear this, maybe 2 times. But yeah, it's been good. He added me to his Peloton account, and they have super dope classes that I'm not taking enough advantage of, but a little bit. And then we've had our little foster kitten and his mom for a little over a week now, and he is nuts. He is very fast. He never stops moving. I cannot photograph him because he never stops moving. Neither of them are interested in cuddling with me at all. And I am irrationally offended by this, but maybe they'll come around. All right. I was hoping to keep this one kind of short, and I think I did it. I will be back next week, Hopefully not by myself. And in the meantime, I don't know. Drink water, eat fruits and vegetables. I don't know. I'm not good at sign-offs. I hope you guys have a great week. Thank you guys so much for listening to For Your Misinformation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you like it, give us a rating and a review.
It helps us find more listeners, and the more of us there are, the better. And make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at FYMIPod.
Shout out to Ben Schlofelt for the audio production, Hope Dye for the podcast art, Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, and Adam Roston, who edits these videos every week so you can watch them on YouTube.
We come out with new episodes every Monday.